Hello everyone, Jax West from Stephen Avery Project, Justice with Jax, and MAM Gossip. Was not planning to go live today, but now we get another chapter in the Avery saga that I wanted to talk about. Or bitch about, however you want to describe it. I totally, like I said, I've been live like every freaking day. And today I'm like, oh, we're not doing a live today. I wake up to diarrhea and blood on my kitchen floor. So my foster dog is in heat. So then had to go through in dealing with all that mess. And then I run to the store, come home, gonna enjoy my lunch. And I see it's been submitted to Gossip for a screenshot that Kayla Avery has filed a harassment charge against her uncle Stephen. So, here I am. Because what the actual smurf. We had a live about this a week or so ago. Whenever Kathleen released the information on the new witness pointing at Bobby, and you had the family fan group, Facebook group, falling apart. Exactly, Kat. And there was Kayla. Sup, Kat? Kayla and her sister Brittany were posting in the family fan group nasty things about Stephen. So what the story is, for those that weren't a part of that, and if you search in here in Gossip, we have the screenshots are posted somewhere of the things that Kayla and Brittany and Carla were all saying about Stephen. They have deleted those, but, you know, once something goes out on the interwebs, it's there forever. So if you want to see those screenshots for yourselves, we have them. So here's the history of this, okay? Kayla loves her grandma. I will never deny that at all. Kayla loves her grandma. So Dolores is her grandma. Kayla is Earl's daughter. His youngest, I believe. Kayla refers to her grandma, Dolores, as her best friend. Kayla is the one that once Dolores was mostly in a wheelchair, it is Kayla who would look after her grandma and take her places. Kayla now works in a care facility. The family kept it secret from the public for quite some time, which I don't have an issue with because it's their personal business. I had known it for some time that Dolores has dementia. So at one point, Stephen was paying Kayla to live with Dolores and take care of her. The family do not like Kayla. I don't know if this is prior to the Teresa Halbach case that they've just always hated on this little girl, or if it is because of they believe that she was somebody that, you know, when you have a crappy life, negative attention is attention. And when Kayla is being raised by a man, Earl Avery, who has been caught putting a video camera in the bathroom so he could watch Kayla and Brittany and Marie, his stepdaughter, and their friends change into bathing suits. And Earl is somebody who has beaten and raped his wife at the time, Kayla's mother, Candy. Now Candy LaFlash. Chuck, her uncle Chuck, it has been reported that he has raped various family members and attempted relationships with the significant others of his brothers and customers that would go to Avery Salvage. So, and Kayla's got the long IQ. I did post the picture of the statement she wrote out to law enforcement, where you can see from her writing there, she's illiterate, like a lot of the family. So the family believed when Kayla said the things she claims that Brendan had said to her, it's because she just wanted attention. That she felt Brendan's getting this attention, even though it's negative, bad attention. Who would want that attention? That Kayla wanted attention. Now, I do not know, I don't remember, because I used to message back and forth with Kayla. I sympathized with Kayla a lot. You know, when you see her in Making a Murderer, when they put her on the stand and she admits she lied in the things that she claimed that Brendan said to her, I feel for that girl. She's had a horrible life. She's not the smartest girl. I felt really, really bad for her. And I still do. I still do feel bad for Kayla on many things. One of the things that I had talked to Kayla about is she had no contact with Brendan up until the point that when I was talking to her. She had not talked to Brendan at all. And she told me how much she missed him and how guilty she felt about all of it. And so I had told her, my advice to her was she should write Brendan a letter, and everything she was saying to me, she should say to Brendan. Kayla, just like we've been talking about in the whole Barb-Brad situation, and that Barb controls, she's the key to Brendan. So if you want to be able to have any kind of relationship with Brendan, you have to be in Barb's good graces. So Kayla, who Barb told me said awful, awful things about Kayla to me. So did Carla. So did Chuck. So did Scott. They all just, the first time I meet them in person, they're sitting here telling me all these awful things about a little girl. Made me very uncomfortable. But if Kayla wants to talk to Brendan or anything, she's got to be good with the family. So at one point, she makes up with the family, and then I get a nasty message from Kayla telling me things like, leave her family alone, blah, blah, blah. I said some mean things back to her, which I don't regret. You know, she's gonna... If you're gonna come at me, expect me to come back at you. So we did argue a little bit, but I haven't heard from Kayla in a long time. So now we hear after more fingers are pointed at Bobby, we see that Kayla comes unglued in the family fan group, bitching, smurfing about Steven. Oh, let me go back again. So when Kayla worked for Steven to take care of Dolores at home, Steven's got the family in his ear saying all these horrible things about Kayla. They're saying that Kayla's not taking proper care of Dolores, this and that about Dolores, and then they accuse Kayla of stealing money from Dolores. So that was like the final straw, and Kayla was fired. So this was the family doing Kayla in. And it turns out it wasn't Kayla who stole the money from Dolores. It was Carla's brother, Christopher, who lives at Avery Salvage. He lives in the trailer that Chuck had lived in back during the Teresa Halbach case. So that's the one on the other side of the office for Avery Salvage. That is on the gravel road of Avery Road that goes directly into the pit. So that's where Christopher lives. And so, so Christopher's there, then is the office, then is the little parking area for the garage, and then is Dolores's trailer. And with Dolores having early onset dementia, Christopher was just going into Dolores's trailer and helping herself, as probably many other of the Averys have. Dolores has been taken advantage of by that family for a long, long time. So that's how Kayla got fired. And I know back when I used to talk to Steven, I told him I stood up for Kayla. Even though at that time Kayla didn't like me, I'm still going to call things as I see it. I don't care if people like me. And I know, other than Steven, Kayla's the only other person whose intentions are completely pure for Dolores. Could Kayla have been lazy at times and maybe the house wasn't cleaned up as well as it could have been? Maybe. I don't know. I can't speak on that. But then somebody else do it. Nikki, I have no connection other than being a supporter. So I am not related to the family. But during the case, once upon a time, was friends with many of the family. And I know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. So, all right. So now back to what happened a couple weeks ago when Kayla was posting in the family fan group. Dolores is now in a home because of her dementia. And she was at one home and then she was moved to another, and it's where Kayla works. I even made a post in here in Gossip when that was brought to my attention, because there was a picture of Kayla with Dolores, and it made me so happy. Again, like I said, Kayla doesn't like me, but I was so happy to see that picture of Dolores and Kayla, and knowing that Kayla works where Dolores is, because whether or not Dolores, where her mind's at, it gives me comfort to know that Kayla is there, that I know Kayla loves Dolores, and that Dolores, I said this in another live, when you see pictures of Dolores, she's always very stoic. Looks miserable. But if she's with Kayla, her face lights up and she's got a big smile. When you hear phone calls and Kayla's on the phone, or Dolores is on the phone and Kayla is at Dolores's, and you can kind of hear Kayla in the background. You'll hear Dolores giggle. Kayla is like very hyper, and she just gives Dolores a lot of enjoyment. That's a good thing. Stephen loves his mother. We all know that. Stephen is not being told the full story on things, and he's being left in the dark. And you got to remember with Stephen, he's got a low IQ. He's been incarcerated most of his life. So he doesn't really know how to live in the real world. He doesn't understand how things get done. And he is very headstrong and thinks he can tell people what to do. So Stephen will try to call his mother at the home. And for whatever reason, he hasn't been able to talk to her. Whether or not it's, people are saying she doesn't even know what a phone is and all these things. And that the home will organize for a certain day and time. Stephen can call, but then Stephen doesn't call at that certain day and time. People got to be flexible on that. And you got to understand that when Stephen was in jail, there was a phone in his cell. He could use the phone as much as he wanted. Called his mother multiple times a day, causing her huge bills. He doesn't have that in prison. You're only able to get to the phone X amount of times, and there's other dudes wanting to use that phone. And it can cause, people to get hurt in fighting over a phone. So unless Kathleen was able to organize something that, because a lawyer call is different than a regular call. That Stephen would be brought to a private room and the call would happen that way. Which is what I think Kathleen Zellner should do. It should organize like some client lawyer time, and that would be the set time that Stephen could call his mom. But see, Stephen also won't understand that you can't just do it whenever you want and people are gonna, change things, and that he wouldn't be able to do that every day or whatever. The home has other patients to take care of and such. It is said that at the first home Dolores was put in, she was neglected and that she developed like bed sores. We don't know what truly happened there. So I am not going to say one way or another if she was mistreated. But if that's what people are reporting to Stephen and saying she was mistreated, he's going to lose his ever-loving mind of somebody's hurting his mother. So then they take her out of the first place and puts her in where she allegedly is now that Kayla works at. And so what is happening is Stephen tries to talk to his mom and he's not able to for whatever reason. Stephen is blaming Kayla for that, since Kayla works at the home. And it is not Kayla's fault. But Stephen won't see reason. And so when Stephen calls the home, and I don't know this for sure, I'm just going off of my personal interactions with Stephen. When Stephen calls the home and they explain to him that he can't talk to her for whatever reason. Stephen goes off. And then probably says some not so nice stuff about Kayla. Having no real grasp over whatever Kayla's position is at that home. She has no power. She has no control over anything. She's probably somebody who just cleans up after the patients. She's not, a doctor or. So Stephen talks to various people. There's a lot of people that he has talked to over the years who are not the best people. They saw this guy on their favorite show and they feel like they're talking to a famous person. And so they're going to tell Stephen whatever he wants to hear. And whatever Stephen tells them, they're going to take at face value. So somebody has written nasty reviews of the home online. There were two different ones, or two different names, but the posts were the same. So it's the same person using fake names. The family is thinking that Stephen put somebody up to it. I don't think personally Stephen would know anything about giving a negative review online. But the person he was talking to when he's telling them his mother's being mistreated and he can't talk to his mother and blah, 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 they may have suggested to Stephen, well, here's something we could do. We could do this. And then Stephen would say, yeah, do that. So according to Kayla, this is affecting her negatively at her job. And it very well could be. And so she is upset with Stephen. And I feel she's justified in being upset if this is what is happening to her. But this is family dirty laundry that shouldn't be going outside of their family circle. Stephen is a dog with a bone. His mother is everything to him. And so he's upset. And now one of the things they said in those posts is they're going to move Dolores to a new place. And now they're not going to let Stephen know where she is. So that's going to be cutting off complete contact. You're upset with Stephen now? And now you add to, we just found out today, but it was filed yesterday, that Kayla has filed harassment charges against Stephen. Which is crossing a line. Because even if Stephen is calling her, you don't accept the charges. He can't just call you. When your phone rings, it will say Waupun Correctional or whatever the frick. It's been a long time since Stephen's called me. I don't recall what would come up on my caller ID when Stephen calls. And then you get the recording. asking if you want to accept this call. So you don't accept it. So how is there harassment if you don't accept the call? And you could contact the prison and tell them you do not want any calls from inmates at that facility. Stephen would not be able to call her. I don't know what kind of smartphone she has, but for my iPhone, I have it set that any numbers I don't know, that aren't programmed into my phone doesn't even ring. It just goes, so see, like that one there that's in red, Putnam, Connecticut. It's in red because that person called. I have my phone set up so I don't get that call. So it sends them directly to voicemail. My phone doesn't ring. Nothing. So she could set up her personal phone so she doesn't get any calls from Stephen. So how is it harassment when you have, too many warranty calls? Exactly, Teresa. You don't have to take his calls. And if Stephen has any women that doing his bidding that call to Kayla on his behalf, Kayla can block those people, and those are the people then you would file harassment charges against. Stephen write her a letter, and she doesn't want to read the letter, you don't open it and throw it away. So, is Stephen calling her work and saying she should be fired? That's something. If he is calling and calling and calling the home and saying something about Kayla, then that's where I would say Stephen is in the wrong. But you don't this is your uncle, like him or not, which apparently she does not. There's my sister. Texting me. She clearly doesn't like Stephen, and that's fine. She doesn't have to like Stephen. I get it. Stephen can be hard to get along with. But when you know what has been done to your uncle, that he is in prison for something he didn't do, do you really need to go this route and do something publicly like this and give Stephen a negative mark on his record in prison? And what possibly, I don't know what punishment that he could get from that. I don't know. So if you're somebody who cares about, you can't leave voicemails or messages on the answering machine because a person has to answer and accept the charge. So there is no voicemail. Would the home have to pay for the call if he called? You have to, you're accepting the charge. So you're answering that you accept. Because what you do is you have an account that's set up with the prison that you put money on it. I probably still have money on my account for Stephen. And then Stephen had stopped calling me. And then you get notified when you've run low on the money on your account. But they can also call themselves, that they have money in their commissary that they can use to make phone calls. So either they're paying for it or you're paying for it. I've always done it when I talk to inmates. I'm going to pay for it. So just like when, so Melissa Kaluzinski and I email all the time. And so it costs me $4 for 20 credits. To send her an email is 1 credit. And so then when I send her an email, I attach a credit to it. So then she can respond to me, and I've paid for that, for that email back. So same thing with phone calls. So you set up an account, and then so they're going to call you, and that it's going to be charged to you. But he can also pay for the calls himself, but you still have to accept it. It's a recording first. Hello, you have received a call from an inmate at the Waupun Correctional Institution, whatever it says. To accept this call, please press 1 now. So, no message. You can't leave a voicemail. Because nobody has pressed that number. And, so he's not leaving threatening messages on her phone. So, but maybe he is calling her, the home, trying to talk to Dolores. And when he can't get to Dolores, he says nasty things about Kayla. But I'm also going to call out the home in this case, because if Kayla is now getting mistreated due to Steven's behavior, that's wrong. You can't blame Kayla for Steven's behavior. So if she's in danger of losing her job because of Steven harassing the home, it shouldn't reflect on Kayla. If they don't want to deal with that, then they should tell the family that Dolores can't remain in their care, and that they have to make other arrangements. But you don't blame Kayla for that. But I do understand Kayla being upset with Steven. I feel she's justified. If he is doing this and saying these nasty things about Kayla, like Kayla is mistreating Dolores, which Kayla would never, ever do. Everybody else in that family, absolutely. If you told me any other single person in that family did something negative to Dolores, I would believe it. Never Kayla. Never, never. But now for Kayla to file this charge that could negatively affect Steven, who has been in prison since 2005, not cool. Who is advising her to do this crazy smurf? But see, we saw just the other day that Barb has filed against her former stepson, Brad Dassey. And this is why I get so bothered by the Making a Murderer or the Avery fans. I always say there's a difference between supporters and fans. I do not like yes men. So Kayla is Barb's niece. I don't like yes men. Just because somebody's been on TV doesn't make them anybody. And people shouldn't just fall at their feet. So, whoever is advising and helping this family to file these idiotic charges, they should be ashamed of themselves right now. You're not a supporter. This does not help Stephen. This does not help Brendan. The thing, all you people who want to say I only support Brendan and I won't support Stephen, Brendan's got a tougher road because he confessed. We all know it was a coerced confession, but he confessed, and that is harder to overturn than somebody who has said the entire time, I am innocent. Oh man, China. So Brendan has pretty much exhausted all his opportunities at freedom other than the governor letting him go free, to which the governor has already said it's not going to happen. And all those Brendanites that keep harassing the governor daily on Twitter and the billboards and all that and trying to harass that governor, you're just making them lock down even harder and go against Brendan. You're not doing Brendan any good by doing that, by harassing Governor Evers. Something I learned long ago. Politicians only care about constituents. So all you people who don't live in Wisconsin who want to reach out to this governor, he don't care what you have to say. You can't do anything for him. You don't affect him. So you're wasting your time. And actually could be working against Brendan by harassing the governor. So when Brendan's legal road isn't so bright, Stevens still has opportunities here. And possibly from what Kathleen is able to prove and do for Stephen could help Brendan. Doesn't automatically mean it does. I've explained this to y'all before. Just because she gets Stephen out, well, first of all, she doesn't have to prove who did it. She just has to prove Stephen's not given a fair trial and there's reasonable doubt. So she does not have to find the real killer. But even if she gets a new trial and Stephen is set free on reasonable doubt because she's pointing all these fingers at Bobby, it doesn't mean the door gets open and Brendan gets to go home. Because maybe everything Brendan has said, it's really stuff that Bobby had done. And Brendan's trying to cover for his brother. I don't believe that for a second, but I'm just saying that's why Brendan doesn't automatically get out of jail free card. But by whatever Kathleen is able to discover and get out there, maybe it will help Brendan. So in doing something negative against Stephen isn't going to help you if all you're supporting is Brendan. This was the wrong move. Kayla, if you watch this was the wrong move. I understand your frustration with Stephen. I really do. You should have reached out to Kathleen Zellner and done it privately and not let the whole making a murderer world know about it. Not saying you have to like Stephen. Not saying you have to care about Stephen. But this is not going to help anybody. It's not helping Kayla because you already have people who have been upset with her due to her being the one to point the fingers at Brendan. This is just a mess. And why now? Why, after all these years, is this family coming completely unglued? Because Kathleen is finding more and more that points to Bobby. And then, in spilling real tea, the family loves this attention. Look at what Carla said, because Kayla, in her rants in the fan group, had said, take this page down. And Kayla said no, because she's invested so much time into it, and she has made a lot of friends that are better to her than her family. Because these Avery people did not have any friends prior to making a murderer. Because look at so many problems they have had with the law. So they didn't have any friends. There's nothing going on in their life. And then Making a Murderer comes out. And they instantly have all these sympathizers. Then they have people sending them money. Sending them gift cards to Red Lobster and to spas and gas cards. Oh, even Jeff's here correcting me. Carla said no, not Kayla. Sorry. Yep. See, because I do think I have dementia as well. Not even kidding there. Kayla's the one said, or Carla is the one that said no. She was not going to shut the page down because she has made friends. So this family needs Stephen in prison to continue their popularity and the money that they get from the fans. Because once Stephen is free, there's no Carla being the family spokesperson. Stephen's going to talk for himself, and he will get his own people that he surrounds himself with that will be speaking for Stephen. No, Kathleen will not represent Brendan. It'll be a conflict. She won't do it. And I don't know that Brendan would want it because his mom talks so horribly about Kathleen. So Brendan probably hates Kathleen from what his mom says. Once Stephen is free, their gravy train comes to an end. So it's the last thing they want. Plus, none of them like Stephen. They don't want him in their life. This is what I was told, and Jeff is here. I don't know if he's still here. But every time I've gone to Manitowoc, Jeff has been with me. So it was Carla's husband, Stacy, told me. I remember it clear as day. It's when we were walking the Pam of God path. We were right by the trailer that Chuck had lived in at that time, where the car had been that they had found the RAV4 plates. And what Stacy had said to me was the family does not like Stephen. And when he was out of prison for those 2 years, he treated everybody like Smurf. He doubled down on treating them like dirt. And they hate him and don't want him home. So when the Teresa thing came about, they were happy to be rid of him. The only thing they wanted was his $36 million. So they were taking his poor treatment because they were hoping to get a handout. And so that Stephen also knows they're not going to fight back because they want his money. So then he would continue to treat him like dirt. Because when the Penny Bernstein case happened, they all abandoned him because they were happy he was gone, not his mother. Rest of them are all happy he's gone. Nobody talks to him. Nobody visits him other than his mom and sometimes his dad. And sometimes, I think it was sometimes Barb. For the 18 years he was gone. So Stephen's got a lot of hatred for his family, and rightfully so. Left him for dead. So now we have a chance to get rid of him. And Chuck and Earl, because Alan was retired, Alan doesn't run the salvage yard and hasn't in a long, long time. Carla gets really upset when I would bring up that Dolores and Alan don't live together. And you can even find it in miscellaneous paperwork that Alan would be up in Crivets and then he would come to Manitowoc like Tuesday through Thursday. But then it wasn't even every week he would do it. And then it was getting less and less, and more he just stayed in Crivets, and Dolores preferred Manitowoc. So Alan wasn't having really anything to do with the salvage yard. He likes Crivets. He liked gardening and fishing, and he liked that. So the boys now owned the salvage yard. But when Stephen is free, it's now split 3 ways. I don't know why Barb isn't included in that since she's one of their children, but it seems to me from what I know from what Barb has said and everything I've heard, her parents and nobody really liked Barb. Barb, and Barb has not had a good life either. It is said that her own brother Chuck raped her. That Chuck has raped his daughters, Chuck has raped other family members, and Chuck has raped Barb when she was a child. So, Stephen staying in prison is the best thing for the Averys. Dolores is the only one that wanted him home, and now Dolores has dementia. So, may not even know at this point who Stephen is. Which is such a travesty. And I feel so much for Stephen that he's losing his mom. So, let me again say, I believe Kayla that Stephen is lashing out at her due to what he is hearing is mistreatment of his mom and not being able to have contact with his mom. And I'm sure it's pissing her off. But filing this harassment suit or charge or whatever it's called is not the way to do this. You're making it worse. Don't accept his calls. If Steven's passing out your number to other people, or other people are just finding your number to call on Steven's behalf, you go after those people for what they're doing. Family should have handled this internally and not put this out there like this. Because it's also the making a murderer supporters are going to side with Steven. The Avery family fans, you may have them. Those are few. Supporters are many. This is just dumb. I would have, if I was Kayla, reached out to Kathleen and explained what was going on. Steven needs somebody who is not a fan, who's going to just listen to everything Steven says and take it as gospel. Like this is what's going on at the home and Dolores is being mistreated or whatever. Let Kathleen look into it. And then Kathleen should organize something so it would be like the lawyer-client call, and that Steven would be able to call the home and talk to his mom. Understand, where they've said Dolores doesn't even know what a phone is and doesn't know who anybody is. That's fine. Understand that. That would need to be explained to Steven. Steven's not a complete imbecile. All right? We're going to say he's got the low IQ and all those things. He's not a complete imbecile. He's not. But Steven could just talk to her and hear her voice. But he needs somebody like Kathleen, mediator, advocate, who could explain things to Steven and try to make him understand. Because like I said, he's headstrong, and there are times that Steven thinks he just knows, and what Steven says is how it's going to go. And that's not the way it's going to work. And it is, let me tell you, it can be hard to say something to Steven that he doesn't want to hear. So I'm sure there's plenty of people that don't want to say something to Steven he doesn't want to hear. I've done it. Also, see, I'm the one that gets put on the outs at times where I haven't talked to Steven in 2 years now, I think. Because I'm not going to just say what Steven wants. I'm going to be upfront and honest with him. And I'm not saying I have to be the one to talk to him. I'm not saying that at all. I would. I call it, I as I see it. And that's what I would say to Steven. Just like when he said things to me about Kayla before, and I told him, I know Kayla loves her grandma and will do whatever he can for her. Or she can for her. I'm reading the order and it includes a firearm surrender. That's the one for Brad, I thought. Or do we do, the one with Brad had something checked about a firearm. Have we seen, well, I don't know, while I've been talking, has it come out the complete thing that Kayla has filed? I don't know. But yeah, I wasn't planning on going live, but, things just keep happening that I want to talk about. And sometimes people boilerplate OOP. Oh wait, okay. That's so Jeff's answering, yeah, that's standard. About the gun thing. So just Kayla. Oh, who is advising these people to do these things? Even Barb and the one against Brad. Just dumb. I don't care that she's upset at Brad. This is just dumb. It's not going to help. But in Barb's case, she may want to widen the divide to keep Brad now away from Brendan. Because everything we say to Deanna, I'll answer that in a second. Everything I say that Stephen, the bond that Stephen and Dolores have, that is the same thing with Brendan and his mom. Deanna, I am no relation to the family. I am just somebody who watched Making a Murderer, believed in their innocence, and got involved in the case in a supporter role. And so over the years, I have been to Manitowoc several times. I was friends with Barb and Carla at some point, and I used to talk to Brendan on the phone, and I used to talk to Stephen on the phone, and I visited Stephen a couple times. So I've met different people in the Avery family. And then I've also met the different lawyers. So I haven't officially met Kathleen Zellner. We have emailed, and then she's also the lawyer on another case that I advocate for, Melissa Kaluzinski, and it went to court at one point, and so Kathleen was there. And I had made wristbands, you know, those rubber wristbands that said Justice for Melissa. And while we were waiting to go into court, I was sitting with Melissa's family, and Kathleen was over with all of her people, and she was with Erin Moriarty was there from CBS's 48 Hours because she covers Melissa's case. So I had walked over to the group of them and offered them a Melissa wristband. And then they all took it, and then Kathleen even wore it while she was defending Melissa in court. But I have never had a real conversation with Kathleen Zellner. Like I said, we've emailed a couple of times. And then, but I have met Jerry Buting, Dean Strang, Stephen Nyrider, or Stephen Drizzen and Laura Nyrider. So, but I'm just an advocate. I'm just somebody who watched Making a Murderer and was appalled at what I saw and fell down this rabbit hole and have been here ever since. So that's it. All right. So I'm going to call this to a close. Don't know when I'll be live next. I'll end this, and then all of a sudden we'll find out Kathleen filed her a response to the state's response. Let me remind you all that she doesn't have to respond, but I'm sure she will, because I'm sure she likes putting the state in their place. So whenever Kathleen does that, we will go live to cover that. If we hear from the court, we'll go live on that. And then Christopher made a whole bunch of events for next week. So on the weekdays next week, Monday through Friday, we're going to go live in here in Gossip at 1 p.m. Central Time, the usual time I go live. It's 2:30, what is it? 2:32 Central Time right now. We'll go live at 1 o'clock, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, unless something pops up and I can't, where we're going to watch Making a Murderer together. We've done this 2 other times over the years, where we play Making a Murderer, and while it's playing, we're just going to talk together about it. Got to talk over it and comment on it. So the live starts at 1 o'clock, but then at 1:05 is when I'll hit play. So those of you who will be at home and want to be watching it on your own screens, because I won't be able to show it here, because we've done that before where I did show it, and then Carla, hi Carla, reported me, and Facebook flagged it because it's not my content, that I couldn't show that since it's a paid channel. So, but those are the lives that are scheduled for next week. But oh my gosh, who's next? What's going to happen next? So we've got Barb filed harassment charge against Brad. Kayla filed against Steven. Maybe Carla will file harassment against Dolores. Oh my God, these wackadoos. Do your own investigation on this case. Anything you find, you're welcome to post here in MAM Gossip. I ask everybody here to treat other posters with respect. There's many people like myself who have been here since 2015. Jeff. Oh my God. Brooklyn, hunters go and take this quick shower before they go hunting, because deer can smell ya from a mile away. And so hunters will take some kind of shower, trying to get the scents off them before they go out into the woods. So that's not actually suspicious. But everything else he says it is. Okay, yeah. So those are our scheduled lives for next week. But if something else pops up, we'll cover that instead. Post your questions and your research in here. But I don't want anybody ripping on anybody, because if you're somebody who's been around since 2015, or you've been down all the rabbit holes, yeah, you know all this stuff already. And somebody who just watched Making a Murderer yesterday, they haven't been there. So when somebody poses the question of, did anybody think maybe that's not her key? Where's the rest of her keys? Don't go, yeah, duh, we knew that already, because they just watched it. Remember what you were like when you first saw it. So be respectful of them. How is my son? For those of you who have been watching it, that my son hadn't been feeling well. I had to take him for a COVID test. And then yesterday when we were live, he was messaging me that he still's not feeling well and was going to go to emergency care. He spent hours getting a whole bunch of tests yesterday. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And then finally diagnosed him with mono. So he's not going to be feeling well for a while. And he's pretty upset because he just moved into his own apartment in Chicago, and now he won't be able to work for weeks. And, you know, he's got bills to pay. Keys are in the river. Could be. Wherever her keys are, Bobby put them there. I've never had mono. I've heard about it back when I was in high school. But then I was researching it last night after he told me what he was diagnosed with. So yeah. And I asked him today, how's he feeling? And he says still the same as yesterday. So, but that sucks. And they tested him for COVID again. So the poor kid's been tested for COVID like 4 times in the last week. What did you say, Mark? You looked for them? You looked for the keys? Are you from the Manitowoc area, Mark? Or you just went up there? Oh my gosh, Tracy. Yikes. And my son is 27. I didn't even know, I always just thought of mono as something that teenagers got. But he's 27. So. All right. Gonna go. Thank y'all. Thank you everybody who submit the posts in here. Remember too that if you submit something to be posted here and it's not approved, it may be because somebody else has already submitted that. So like something I just declined the other day is that interview that Crime Natters or whatever it is. That's an interview with Kathleen. A couple different, it's been posted in here a couple different times, and sometimes I just allow it to go through because, it's new discussion or whatever. But that would be why that sometimes somebody else has submitted it. And then, I also want to let y'all know that when somebody posts in here, and it says it's posted by Stephen Avery Project, it's not necessarily me who posted it. There are 4 moderators. So 5 of us total that run Stephen Avery Project and MAM Gossip. And so any of them can post as Stephen Avery Project. So, like, I saw a post made in here by Stephen Avery Project talking about Karen Hallbach and Karen Hallbach not crying or something, a video of it. Well, I actually don't agree with that. I've been somebody who has defended Karen Hallbach all these years on how cold she's always seemed. Because I've just said, well, we don't know how she was raised. Some people are raised that you don't show emotion, especially in public. So while I feel it looks odd, I'm not gonna rip on Karen Hallbach for emotion or lack thereof. So it was another moderator that said that, which is fine because it's everybody's entitled to their opinion on things, but I just want to make sure you all know that so it's not necessarily me who makes that post or that comment if it says it's Stephen Avery Project. That's why sometimes, like, when I'm making a post and I'm like chastising the group, it'll say, hi, this is Jax, because I want to make sure people know then that this is coming from me, not any of the other moderators. I'm saying knock off your Smurf and behave. Put on my mom voice. So I just want to make sure that's known. So there you go. Yeah, China, I totally get it. You break down when you're alone. So, all right, I'm going to go and now look to see if there's more Avery drama that's developed. If something else, so like if we find out more on this Kayla thing, I might pop up live again. You never know. Because I just wanted to talk about it. But if not, next live is Monday at 1 p.m. where we'll start Making a Murderer Season 1 or Part 1, Episode 1. So, thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Investigation continues. And don't file any harassment charges.